Her daughter used her name to book a luxury vacation, then tagged her in the photos like it was a favor. Cora Maddox didn't cry. She didn't reply. She quietly canceled every joint account, reversed the charges, and filed a fraud memo by sundown. By the time Maya reached the hotel, the room had vanished, and the card error wasn't a glitch. They booked the flight without her. Now they were landing into silence. We're about to begin, but if you'd like, share where you're joining from. It reminds me this story doesn't echo into silence. It lands somewhere real. Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Cora Maddox was sitting at her small round kitchen table, a cup of chamomile cooling in front of her, when her phone buzzed 3 times in quick succession. The screen lit up with a familiar group name in soft gray text, Maddox Fam. She tapped it open with the ease of habit, not expectation. The first photo loaded slowly, too slowly for her liking, thanks to the desert-worn Wi-Fi. But even before it resolved, she could make out the curved ceiling of Sky Harbor Airport, the wheeled luggage, the neon sign of a terminal cafe. Maya's handwriting in the caption popped up fast. Made it, then another image. This one clearer. Ethan in sunglasses, grinning into the camera like a man used to performing his own charm. Behind him stood Maya and Savannah, both holding iced coffees, mid-laugh. Below that, a comment tag at Cora Maddox, wish you were here. Kinda. Cora blinked. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a moment before the final message appeared. Maya's voice, syrupy sweet even in text. It was super last minute, we figured you'd just want a quiet week anyway. Cora didn't reply. She didn't even blink for a long moment. Instead, she set the phone down on the placemat beside her mug and reached for her reading glasses. She didn't scroll through the photos again. She didn't need to. The same way she didn't need to ask why no one had mentioned this trip before. Not even a passing comment. Not even Savannah, who usually couldn't keep a secret for more than an hour without bursting at the seams. She opened her banking app. No hesitation. No wasted motion. Within seconds, the feed refreshed. 2 pending charges from a vendor she didn't recognize at first glance. SkyWest Vacations, $3,248.77. SkyWest Vacations, $615.60. Both time-stamped less than 24 hours ago. Both charged to the primary household card, the one she'd opened 10 years ago to help Maya and Ethan consolidate debt. The one they'd promised to use only for emergencies. She exhaled, but quietly. No anger, no muttering, just the kind of breath a woman takes when she sees something she already suspected, confirmed in writing. She tapped details, scanned the merchant ID, then locked the phone and stood up slowly. At that exact moment, a familiar shuffle of footsteps approached the front porch. Jo didn't knock. She never did. After 35 years of friendship and 3 shared surgeries between them, the front door might as well have been her own. I brought muffins, Jo called as she stepped inside. The cinnamon ones, not the dry kind from Fry's. Don't lie to me, I know you hate those. Cora didn't answer right away. She returned to her chair, sat down slowly, then reached across the table and handed Jo her phone. Don't eat that muffin yet, she said, her voice soft but coiled tight. Look at what Maya just sent me. Jo raised an eyebrow, took the phone and started scrolling. First the airport photo, then the tag, then the emoji, and finally, the charges. Jo's mouth twitched into a thin line. She looked up. They really took a vacation on your dime and didn't invite you. Cora nodded once. Jo's reply came without hesitation. Well, isn't that cute? She set the phone down between them, like it was ticking. What are you gonna do? Cora sipped her tea, the rim of the cup barely trembling in her hand. When she set it back down, her eyes were calm. Icy even, I'm going to let them enjoy the flight. She paused, then added with finality, because the landing's going to feel different. The morning sun had already turned the hotel lobby windows into streaked gold when Maya reached the front desk, her oversized sunglasses pushed into her hair and a white cardigan draped over her shoulders like entitlement. Behind her, Ethan tapped at his phone with exaggerated impatience, muttering about the Wi-Fi being trash. Savannah trailed a few feet behind, earbuds in, not fully pretending to be interested in the resort's koi pond near the concierge stand. I'd like to upgrade our seats on the return flight, Maya said brightly, handing over the card with the same fluid confidence she used when asking for small favors she had no intention of. The woman behind the desk smiled, typed something, paused, then typed again, slower. I'm sorry, the clerk said politely, but this card's been declined. Maya blinked. I'm sorry, the woman slid the card back over the counter. It's not a processing error. It says the account has been locked. Maya's smile faltered for a fraction of a second before it clicked back into place. That's odd. It must be a glitch. She stepped away from the desk, pulling her phone from her bag and dialing quickly. The call rang twice. Cora answered on the third. Hi, Mom, Maya said, injecting syrup into the word. Hey, tiny question. Is there a problem with your card? Cora was sitting in her sunroom, cross-legged on the recliner, with Joe's abandoned muffin half-eaten beside her. Her tone came cool, measured, like a woman adjusting the thermostat, not breaking news. No problem at all, she said. Everything's in my control. Maya paused. Right. Okay, but I'll let you know if that changes, Cora added. But it won't. Click. Back at the hotel, Maya stood perfectly still for 3 long seconds before slowly lowering the. Ethan looked up. So, she hesitated, then said, she locked the card. Ethan scoffed. Are you kidding me? Over what? Over nothing, Maya hissed. She's just being dramatic. He shook his head, already pulling out his own wallet. Fine, we don't need her. I'll cover it. The card was declined before the clerk could even finish swiping. No available credit, she said gently. Ethan's mouth tightened. Run it again. It won't change anything. He grabbed the card back, muttering something under his breath that Savannah pointedly pretended not to hear. Maya looked back at her daughter, but Savannah only shrugged, headphones still in. Back in Tempe, Cora was seated across from Luis Tapia in his sleek sunlit bank. The polished wooden desk between them glowed under the fluorescent lights, and the hum of the HVAC system was the only sound besides the quiet click of her stylus against the tablet. Luis looked up from his monitor.
He just confirmed.
The SkyWest charges have been flagged under fraud monitoring, and the household card is officially locked. You'll get a new number, but I recommend we take it a step further. I agree, Cora said. We'll open a private account under a trust name, clean separation. The trust protects it from family attachment. Quiet as a mouse, but airtight. She signed the authorization with one fluid motion. Let's call the trust Gamble Oak Holdings. The kind that survives the fire. Luis smiled faintly. Very Arizona. It fits. By the time she stood to leave, the new account was already in process. No linked users, no co-signers, no family fingerprints, just Cora. And a name that no one would recognize until it was far too late to touch. At 4:12 p.m., her phone buzzed again. She didn't reach for it. Not right away. When she finally opened it, it wasn't Maya or Ethan. It was Savannah. One message. Grandma, did you know they left without telling you? Cora stared at it for a long moment, then typed, I know everything I need to. The email came at 6:43 a.m., buried between a coupon from the grocery store and an alert about a community board meeting Cora had no intention of attending. She wouldn't have seen it. She rarely checked that old Gmail address anymore, if not for her habit of quiet, early mornings. The kind of mornings that called for slow-drip coffee, humming kitchen appliances, and classical jazz low in the background. She was halfway through her second cup when she tapped the notification and saw the subject line, R.E. Maddox Family, Travel Documents. Attached the sender, Marisol. Patel at sunscapetravelaz.com. A name that meant little to her until it didn't. The thread unfolded in polite paragraphs and PDF attachments. A forwarded itinerary, booking confirmations, resort add-ons, airport shuttle reservations. Her eyes moved over the screen, her hand steady as she scrolled. The hotel reservation was explicit. 4 nights, Ocean View Suite, fully prepaid. Traveler name listed as Cora L. Maddox. Not Ethan, not Maya. Hers. And then the second PDF. Excursion vouchers for ziplining, a vineyard tour, and a sunset cruise. The charge amount matched exactly what she'd seen listed in her banking app the day before. So that was how they'd done it. They hadn't just used her card, they had booked the vacation in her name, used her identity as a credit shield. Her thumb hesitated over the phone before she opened the last attachment. It was a mistake, clearly a misfire from someone who hadn't double-checked their CC list. Miss Patel's assistant had meant to loop Maya into the chain. Instead, she'd looped Cora. Should I go ahead and apply the points from her profile to the car rental as well? The message asked, breezy and casual. She's not flying with them, but she's listed as the paying contact. Cora stared at that last line. She's not flying with them, but she's listed as the paying contact. For a full 15 seconds, she didn't move. She just sat there, jaw slack but eyes cold, as the silence in her home seemed to stretch, deepen. Then, with practiced calm, she tapped forward and sent the entire thread to Luis. The reply came back 6 minutes later. If this booking was done without your consent, and under your name, you have a 48-hour window to classify it as potential fraud. I can help you reverse the payment before it clears settlement, but we'll need to act now. Cora typed just 5 words. Let's call it that. Her thumb hovered. She added a 6th, quietly. Send. Down the street, the garbage truck made its slow approach. Beep, grind, lift, drop, and the smell of overripe citrus drifted from a neighbor's bin. Life moved on, unbothered by small betrayals disguised as family vacations. She stood, poured the rest of her coffee down the drain, and wiped the rim of the mug with a kitchen towel that said home is earned. A gift from Savannah, Christmas 2 years ago. Handmade, crooked stitching. Honest. The phone buzzed again. This time it was Instagram. A direct message. From Savannah. Grandma. Did you know they left without telling you? Cora stared at it, almost smiling at the delay. Savannah was always late to the punch, but never dishonest. She replied, I know everything I need to. Then she locked the phone and placed it face down on the counter. Outside, the sky over Tempe was warming into a soft, watercolor blue. She opened the kitchen window and breathed in the cool air, heavy with dust and distance. Behind her, her printer began to whir. Luis had sent the reversal confirmation with a legal note. Fraud status accepted. Refund in process. She picked up the printed page, looked at her name at the top, and whispered, mostly to herself, they really booked me as baggage. The resort lobby smelled like hibiscus-scented sanitizer and over-chlorinated air. Polished tile gleamed under heavy luggage wheels as Maya swept past the velvet ropes toward the front desk, Savannah trailing behind with her headphones in and a duffel bag slung too low on her shoulder. Ethan kept pacing, sunglasses still on despite the fluorescent light, his irritation already crackling beneath the skin. We have a reservation under Maddox, Maya said, adjusting her tone into practiced sweetness. Ocean View Suite. Should be fully paid. The desk agent, a woman named Clarissa with tired eyes and perfect posture, tapped the keyboard, glanced at the screen, and paused. I'm sorry, she said after a beat. It looks like that reservation was canceled this morning. Maya blinked. What do you mean canceled? It was rescinded, Clarissa repeated gently. Full refund initiated back to the original payment method. You should have received an email confirmation. Ethan stepped forward, voice sharp. There must be some mistake. My mother-in-law booked this. Clarissa didn't flinch. You can certainly call her to clarify, but from our end, the reservation no longer exists. Maya turned toward Ethan, her jaw stiff. Call her. You call her, he snapped. She's your mother. Savannah backed up a step and slid onto a cushioned bench near the koi pond, pretending to scroll her phone, though she wasn't really reading anything. She just wanted to be away from them. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Then once more. Still nothing. Across the country club lounge, a family laughed over cold drinks, unaware that this particular check-in had veered into slow-motion combustion. Text Joe. Savannah mumbled under her breath, thumbing her phone. She'll tell me what's going on. Back in Tempe, the sun had risen higher, filtering through the slats of Cora's pergola and casting slanted shadows across her garden beds. She moved slowly, steadily, trimming lavender stems with shears that had belonged to her husband once, before arthritis had made them his burden and hers alone. Her phone buzzed in her back pocket. She didn't check it. Instead, she knelt to pull a stubborn weed. her knees cracking like truth finally settling into old joints. The soil gave way with a satisfying pop. Inside her house, a soft chime sounded from the kitchen table. Her iPad, set to silent but still lit with the occasional notification, showed Savannah's message, "We're in the lobby. Dad's losing it." Cora smiled to herself, lips barely parting. Then she stood, dusted the soil from her gloves, and turned her attention to the potted aloe that had outlasted every summer. She didn't hurry, not for them, not anymore. At Tapia Wealth Management, Luis stared at the computer screen as confirmation lines turned green one by one. Refund processed $3,864.37. Transfer authorized to Gamble Oak Holdings Trust Savings Vehicle. Secured, non-joint, irrevocable. He leaned back, steepled his fingers, and let out a quiet breath. Then he picked up his phone and typed one line to Cora. "Funds are moved, no fingerprints left." She didn't respond, but a minute later, he saw that the message had been read. Back at the resort, Ethan was now leaning across the counter, his voice no longer polite. "Listen, I don't care what your screen says. Call a supervisor." Clarissa remained composed. "I've already checked with our manager, sir. I'm afraid you'll need to provide a new form of payment if you'd like to book a new room." Maya looked pale. She stepped aside, pulled Ethan with her by the sleeve. "We don't have a card that'll go through." "Try yours again," he said. "No, she's bluffing," Ethan said. "Cora's always been soft. She'll come through." But Savannah knew better. She didn't say it out loud. She just watched the koi swim lazy circles under the surface, then reached into her bag and pulled out her earbuds. Her fingers moved fast over the screen. Another text, this one to Joe Lobby. "They're spiraling." The message came in just after sunrise. Maya's name flashed across Cora's lock screen, followed by a bubble of sugary denial. "We asked you twice if you wanted to come. You didn't answer either time, Mom." Cora sat at the edge of her bed, glasses still in hand, not yet on her face. She let the words settle, not because they hurt, because they didn't surprise her. The phone buzzed again. "We assumed you just didn't want to deal with airports." The phrasing pricked, not invited, not offered, assumed. Cora slid on her glasses and opened her messaging app. She scrolled, back weeks, then months. Nothing but requests for her to check balances, reminders to move funds just until Friday, and smiley face updates from Savannah about school plays and cafeteria gossip. But not a single message, not one that mentioned a vacation, much less an invitation. She opened her notes app and began typing. August 4th, "Mom, any chance you can help us cover a weird SkyWest billing error? I'll Venmo you." August 15th, "The school wants a tuition deposit. Can we borrow again?" September 1st, "Still want to do that dinner for Savannah's grades. Let's pick a date." September 19th, "Hey, we'll be out of town a few days. Can you keep an eye on the mail?" No mention of the trip. No offer. No "do you want to come?" Just logistics. Financial soft-ins. She copied the list, then clicked share. Sent it to Joe with no explanation. 3 minutes later, Joe arrived. No knock. Just a groan of the front door and the sharp smell of menthol hand cream that always preceded her. "I brought coffee," Joe said, setting 2 cups on the table. "And I brought receipts." Cora handed her the phone without a word. Joe read through the message, then opened the note Cora had compiled. She gave a slow, approving nod. "Good. Now let's dress this up for court." Cora tilted her head. "Look," Joe said, "if they're gonna gaslight you, they better come with fire insurance. Let's start your own timeline. Day by day. Texts, bank pings, everything. Facts make the best blade." They worked side by side, Cora on her iPad, Joe flipping through a worn planner, jotting dates in pencil like it was deposition prep. Half an hour in, Cora's phone buzzed again. "Savannah, can I come stay with you when we're back?" Cora didn't reply immediately. She looked out the window, the morning sun now hitting the aloe with a clean gold glow. The garden didn't ask questions. It just bloomed where it was nurtured. She typed slowly. The door's always open. For truth, no emoji, no dot dot dot. Just the kind of reply that carried weight without needing volume. Later that afternoon, another email slid into her inbox. This one from Miss Patel. Subject line marked follow-up. Hi, Miss Maddox. I just wanted to apologize. Maya told us you were joining the trip. She even asked we put everything in your name so it would keep things smooth. I never suspected anything was off. If I had, I'd have asked for direct confirmation. Cora read it twice, then saved the email to a secure folder on her desktop titled Discreet Fire. That night, she and Luis sat across from each other in his private conference room, an unused space at the bank with no cameras, no interruptions, and a long table usually reserved for high-value clients. Luis had already pulled up documents on the screen, preliminary paperwork for credit misuse and fiduciary abuse investigation. This isn't just emotional, Cora, he said carefully. It's structural. They booked under your name, used your identity, your financial history. That's not petty. That's leverage. Cora didn't flinch. I want to file a formal fraud memo. Discreet, but documented. Luis leaned forward. We can start there. But once you open this door, I'm not the one who opened it, she interrupted. I'm just locking it behind them. He nodded, then clicked the first signature field into view. It started with a ping. Cora was folding linens in the guest bedroom when her iPad lit up on the windowsill. The air smelled of lavender sachets and the faint tang of lemon oil, something Joe had insisted on using instead of spray starch. Her hands moved rhythmically, fold, flatten, stack, until a soft notification broke the quiet. Tag alert. She tapped the screen once and saw it. A public post. Ethan Maddox, 43 minutes ago. Sometimes your own family is the most toxic thing in your life. Just want to say this. If anyone out there has a parent who sabotages, manipulates, or tries to control you with money, cut the cord. No one deserves that. Not even your worst in-laws. #boundaries, #freedom, #truth hurts. Attached was a photo of Ethan and Maya on a pool deck. Sunglasses, frozen margaritas, an illusion of ease. Savannah was cropped out entirely. Cora stared at it for a long moment. Not because it surprised her, because it didn't, but because even their lies had a predictable rhythm now. Always vague enough to dodge legal heat, always just sharp enough to wound. She clicked open the comments. Already over 100. Some sympathetic, good for you, man. Parents like that are poison. Some confused, wait, wasn't your mill paying for your trip? One, if she's so toxic, why are you using her name to book your flights? That one got no reply. Cora's mouth didn't twitch. Her fingers didn't tremble, but her spine went straight as rebar. She took a screenshot, saved it to her desktop, and then picked up her phone. 2 houses down, Joe was pruning her front hedge with a pair of red-handled clippers when the message came through. From Cora's subject, for your amusement. They've gone full amateur hour. Joe opened the screenshot, let out a short laugh, and walked inside. Her desktop was already open, her alt account ready. She logged in, not as Joe, but as truth teller. Then, under Ethan's post, she wrote 3 short questions. Who paid for your room? Who's the name on the itinerary? Why does fraud suddenly feel like boundaries? No hashtags, no insults, just cold light. Within 12 minutes, the post was gone. Deleted. That evening, Cora's phone buzzed again. This time, a direct message from Savannah. They're saying you're unstable. Like that's why you weren't invited. Cora stood in her kitchen, stirring lentil soup as if nothing in the world had shifted. She read the message once, then again. She replied, they're not defending themselves. They're erasing their guilt. Then, she ladled the soup into a wide ceramic bowl and set it on the counter to cool. Across the room, her laptop waited. She sat down and opened a new folder on her desktop. She titled it, Narrative versus Reality. Inside it, she began dragging files, screenshots of texts, PDF bank alerts, the Patel email, the SkyWest receipt, the travel confirmation with her name and not theirs. She paused once to add a subfolder. Statements. Inside it, she pasted the anonymized memo Luis had sent about the fraud dispute. She didn't need it for court yet. She needed it for clarity. For when people asked later, how did this all happen? So she could say, let me show you. She was just about to log out when another alert came in, this time from the neighborhood Facebook group. Someone had reposted Ethan's message, tagging it with "just sad when families fall apart." No names, but everyone knew. Cora clicked save. Then she clicked block. The hold music was cheerful. Too cheerful, really upbeat jazz tinkling through the speakerphone, while Cora waited on her landline for a customer service rep from Desert Star Auto Insurance. She sat at her dining table, a neat stack of paper folders on one side, her notepad open on the other. A ballpoint pen rolled back and forth across the table edge with each subtle shift in her wrist. "Miss Maddox," a voice finally said, "thanks for waiting. How can we assist you today?" Cora adjusted her glasses. "I need to terminate the policy for the 2020 SUV under the name Ethan Maddox. It was bundled with my household plan. That needs to end." The woman paused. "Are you sure? That'll adjust your bundle rate." "I'm sure," Cora said. "Remove him today." She hung up 10 minutes later with a confirmation number and a PDF in her inbox. The next call was to her mobile provider. Then dental, then vision. Ethan and Maya were scrubbed from every linked policy, every co-signed convenience. All of it unknotted quietly, by mid-morning. By noon she was sipping mint tea in her sunroom, watching dappled light shift through the blinds. Joe walked in without knocking, a reusable grocery bag in hand. "Guess what I brought?" "Freedom in a can," Cora asked, nodding toward the bag. "Diet root beer. It counts." Joe set it down and eyed the folders on the table. "All done?" she asked. Cora handed her a printout. "These are the new lines. No joint signatures. No bundled anything. Just me. And you as my secondary on the emergency contact list." Joe raised her eyebrows. "You really cleaned house." Spring came early. At 1:17 p.m., Maya called. Cora didn't answer the first time, or the second. On the third, she let it ring twice, then picked up. Her tone was measured. Still, deceptively still. Maya's wasn't. "You can't just shut things down, Mom." "You're mistaken," Cora said calmly. "I absolutely can." Maya launched into a familiar rhythm. Reasons, rewrites, rationalizations. How Cora was overreacting. How this would look to the rest of the family. How Ethan was in the middle of refinancing. And the credit alerts were causing issues. How the phone line had gone dead this morning, and her dentist wouldn't confirm coverage. Cora let the words pile up like bad receipts. When Maya finally paused, Cora spoke with the softness of glass about to crack. "I've just started." Then she hung up. Hours later, Ethan sat across from a loan officer at Sun Valley Mortgage, red-faced and smoldering. "It doesn't make sense," he said. "My credit was fine last month." The officer didn't even blink. "Well, there's a freeze on your joint file and several co-linked accounts show recent closures. Your name is now listed as secondary on all formerly active credit lines, or removed entirely. Also, there's a note indicating potential fraud investigations pending." Ethan leaned forward, voice sharp. "That's not fraud, it's family. Tell that to the underwriter," the officer replied, already swiveling back to his screen. That evening, Cora opened a new message from Savannah. "Mom just spent 20 minutes yelling about Wi-Fi, dentists, and narcissistic sabotage. Dad's pacing like he's got court in the morning." She followed it with a separate message. "They're unraveling." Cora didn't smile, but she did reply. "That's what happens when knots get pulled, not tied." She was just setting the phone down when the doorbell rang. She opened it to find a plain white envelope sitting on her welcome mat. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single folded page, typed, "No greeting. We're not the villains here. If you don't stop, we'll make sure everyone knows who you really are." Beneath it, a grainy photo of her house, taken from the street, just far enough to be legal, just close enough to be intimidation. The new cards arrived in a matte black envelope, unbranded except for a discreet tracking sticker on the bottom left corner. No welcome pamphlets, no glossy inserts, just 3 cards, each with a new number, each under a trust alias. Cora held them in her hands like unmarked keys to a locked house no one else could enter. She sat at her dining table, pulled out her old wallet, the leather faded around the edges, seams splitting from years of quiet use, and began replacing carefully, intentionally. 1 card slipped into the new case. The rest, old, co-linked, touched by Maya or Ethan's fingerprints, she placed in a plastic bag. She'd shred them later. Today she wanted to feel the separation. Across from her, Jo leaned back in the kitchen chair, sipping her root beer. She watched Cora work, eyes sharp. "Clean slate," Jo said. "Clean perimeter," Cora corrected. "They're not the same." On cue, her phone buzzed. "Luis," she answered on speaker. "Package confirmed?" he asked. "Just arrived. Everything's off-grid," he said. "New routing, new pins. The Gamble Oak account's now isolated. And I've removed Maya and Ethan as authorized users across the board." "No access, no alerts?" Cora asked. "None," Luis confirmed. "They wouldn't even get a denial notification. It'll be like the accounts vanished." Cora allowed herself a single breath of acknowledgement. Not relief, just recognition. "Thank you." After the call ended, Savannah walked in through the screen door, cheeks pink from biking, her backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. "Hey, Grandma," she said, plopping into the chair next to Cora. "Want help with anything?" Cora hesitated, then nodded toward the file boxes stacked under the window bench. "I'm pulling old records, just in case we need a paper trail." Savannah knelt beside the nearest box and started flipping through folders. Receipts, bank statements, property tax documents. And then, "Whoa," Savannah said. "Is this your old checkbook?" Cora looked over. "Let me see." Savannah handed it over. The checkbook was from an account closed years ago, mostly blank, but halfway through, there it was. A series of checks written out in familiar handwriting, but not Cora's. The O's curled too high. The M in Maddox looped like a treble clef. Maya, Jo, who had been pretending to read the paper, set it down and squinted at the checks. "Is that what I think it is?" Cora nodded. "She must have used it while I was recovering from surgery." "I thought I'd shredded this." Savannah bit her lip. "That's forgery, right?" Jo's voice was sharp. "That's evidence. Keep it." They tucked the checkbook into a folder labeled 2016-2018, then slid it into the locked drawer in Cora's secretary desk. Later, Luis called again. His voice was even, but the words carried weight. "You've got options now. We can file a formal fraud audit, full inquiry, financial records, forensic tracing. It's invasive but effective." Cora was quiet for a long time. She stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the cactus garden she had planted the year Charles died. The spines had grown thicker this year, the base darker. "Wiser. If they push me 1 more inch," she said, her voice calm as weathered stone, "I'll push back a mile." She hung up. Just then, Jo's phone buzzed. A text. She glanced at it, then looked at Cora. "It's Maya," she said slowly. "She's asking if you'd be open to a reset conversation." Her words. Cora didn't blink. She reached for her new wallet and clicked it shut. "She wants to talk," she said. Let her talk to silence. The email came at 9:11 a.m., as if Maya thought formality might soften the sting. Subject: reconnecting. Let's talk. The message was brief but overly punctuated. The kind of tone people mistake for maturity when what they're really offering is stage direction. "Hi, Mom. We think it would be good for the family to get in the same room and talk. Ethan and I are free Thursday afternoon or Sunday evening. Let us know what works. Hoping we can clear the air, reset expectations, and move forward with love. New apology. No ownership. Just reset expectations, like this was a business dispute and not a year-long slow theft of boundaries. Cora didn't reply. She forwarded the email to Luis with a short note. Please respond with my availability. Luis did. Formally, politely. He offered 2 30-minute windows the following week, in a bank conference room, with counsel present if necessary. The reply came back within the hour. This time from Ethan. No subject, no salutation. Just, you're hiding behind lawyers now? Real classy. Guess it's easier than facing your own bitterness. Cora read it once, then again. She didn't respond. Instead, she printed it, added it to the narrative versus reality folder. She had no intention of playing witness in her own cross-examination. By mid-afternoon, Savannah texted, skipping the meeting. Dad's already yelling about narc abuses and calling Joe a flying monkey. I'd rather scrub toilets. Cora replied, smart girl. Savannah sent one more message. Don't let them spin you. Cora locked her phone and stepped onto the porch, where Joe was deadheading marigolds with surgical precision. Well, Joe asked, not looking up. They bringing snacks to this little summit of theirs? They wanted to meet without conditions, Cora said, easing herself into the rocker. I gave them structure. They called it avoidance. Joe snorted. You gave them scaffolding, and they screamed for rope. I don't owe them a second of explanation, Cora said. Damn right you don't, Joe muttered, then snipped a bloom with a little extra force. Just then, Cora's phone buzzed. A new email, this one from Luis, marked confidential. The subject line read, Escalation confirmed. Formal audit initiated. E. Maddox. Cora opened it slowly. Inside was a PDF attachment. It included language from a flagged incident report, attached evidence of disputed withdrawals, and a letter from a private investigator who had begun compiling an ethics profile, standard procedure in fiduciary fraud assessments tied to family trust breaches. Joe, noticing her silence, finally looked up. What is it? Cora turned the screen around. Joe whistled low. Is that? Formal audit, Cora said. They're going to look at everything Ethan touched in the last 18 months. Joe sat down in the chair beside her, still holding the clippers. And here I thought today was going to be boring. Cora didn't answer. She simply stared out over her yard. The aloe looked stouter this week, like it had braced for impact. The citrus trees needed watering. And in the far corner, where the lavender had browned, something had begun to bloom again. Something pale and small and stubborn. Her phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail. She didn't recognize the number, but the transcription preview said enough. Mrs. Maddox, this is Special Accounts Recovery calling on behalf of Sun Valley Mortgage. We've flagged irregularities in a co-signed file under the name Ethan Maddox. Please return our call. She closed the screen. Joe leaned forward. What now? Cora folded her hands in her lap. Now, she said, we let them discover just how far the bottom goes. The photo came through just after 7 a.m., still dim outside in Tempe. The sky rubbed raw with early heat. Cora had just finished watering her cactus bed. The hose coiled neatly at her feet when the text lit her lock screen. From Savannah image attachment, she tapped it open. There it was, Ethan's leased SUV, the same black Toyota Highlander they'd insisted was for family trips, tilted at an awkward angle as it was hitched onto the back of a tow truck. The driveway in front of their stucco rental looked strange without it, bare exposed. A hole where entitlement used to park. Caption, they showed up at 6:30. Mom's freaking out. She thought it was a neighbor prank until they took the keys. No follow-up. Just the image. The silence it came wrapped in, and Savannah's implied confession, I'm still watching. I'm still choosing. Cora didn't respond right away. Instead, she stepped back inside, peeled off her gloves, and walked into the hallway where a single photo hung, framed in copper and a little dust. It was from their last real family trip, not the one they stole. The one she'd paid for in full, back when Savannah was 10 and obsessed with tide pools, and Maya still pretended to like holding hands in airport security line. In the picture, Cora stood in the middle, Maya and Ethan on either side. Savannah in front, sunburned and smiling, holding a seashell like it was sacred. For a moment, Cora's fingers rested on the frame. Her eyes flicked to the corners, where the edges were warping slightly in the Arizona heat. Behind her, her cell rang. The ringtone, a subtle chime reserved for Maya's number, played 3 times before she answered. "Mom," Maya said, and Cora could hear it immediately, the panic buried under practiced politeness, cracking at the edges. "The car, they came and took it, and I didn't even know we'd missed anything, I swear. Can't you just this once, help us get it back?" Cora said nothing. "Mom," Maya continued, voice trembling now, "we've got nowhere to turn. You've always been the one who fixes things." Cora looked again at the photo, at her own hand frozen in mid-wave. Then she said gently, "You booked without me, now pay without me." The pause on the line was thick. And then, click. No scream, no insult. Just absence. The kind that echoes louder than anger. Back in her home office, Cora sat down at the desk that still smelled faintly of lemon oil and dry ink. She opened her banking interface and saw Luis's secure message waiting. Subject: Final Transfer Authorization, Gamble Oak Family Trust. She clicked it open. Funds from the frozen SkyWest account have been moved in full to the family trust, now listed under irrevocable conditions. Only you and your designated beneficiary may access. Confirmed and closed. LT. She clicked archive, then opened another file. Her will. She scrolled down to the beneficiary section, paused, then clicked edit. One name remained, Savannah E. Maddox. Beside it, she added 2 new designations. Healthcare proxy durable power of attorney. She hesitated for half a second, then clicked save. At that exact moment, Jo entered from the back patio, holding 2 coffees and a newspaper under her arm. "They're blaming you already on Facebook," she said. "Apparently financial abuse of the elderly works both ways now." Cora smiled faintly. "Let them talk." Jo narrowed her eyes. "You okay?" "I'm clean," Cora replied. "And they're in freefall." Just then, the printer behind her began to hum, another document from Luis queued up. But before she could check it, the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, there was no one on the porch, just a cardboard box. Inside, a stack of old photo albums, ones she hadn't seen in years. On top was a sticky note, written in sharp, childish loops. "Don't let them take these. Savannah." Cora didn't cry, but she did hold the box for a long time, like it was the only weight that mattered now. The knock was soft, not the kind of knock you use when you're angry or entitled. Just 3 short taps, followed by silence. When Cora opened the door, Savannah stood there in oversized sweatpants and a borrowed denim jacket, her backpack hanging off one shoulder and a mesh laundry bag cinched tight in her fist. "I brought all the stuff I didn't want them touching," she said. Cora didn't move at first. Then she stepped aside. "Shoes off by the bench," she said gently. "Keys go in the tray." Savannah obeyed without hesitation, slipped out of her sneak, set the laundry bag beside the bench, and placed her key fob, once shared with both parents, into the ceramic tray shaped like a shallow leaf. It clinked quietly, like a closing sentence. In the kitchen, Cora handed her a glass of iced tea. No small talk, no smile. "There are rules if you're staying here," she said. Savannah nodded once. "Okay. You handle your own laundry. You clean up after meals. You don't lie, not to me, not to yourself. Okay. And you will contribute. Groceries, gas, time." Savannah's voice didn't waver. "Yes, ma'am." Cora didn't respond with praise, just turned, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a new check register, paper-bound, crisp, unopened. "You're going to learn how to keep a balance," she said. "We'll start with that." That afternoon, they sat at the kitchen table for over an hour. Savannah filled in mock transactions, while Cora leaned over her shoulder, occasionally correcting a line or showing her how to subtract using actual decimals, not the app she was used to. By the end of it, Savannah had opened her first savings account online, with Cora guiding her step by step. "Direct deposit only," Cora said. "No shared logins. You protect your name like it's your future, because it is." Jo stopped by around dinner time, holding a frozen lasagna like an offering. She's settling in, she asked, glancing toward the living room where Savannah sat organizing pantry labels in alphabetical order. She's trying, Cora replied. That's more than I've seen from anyone in years. Joe nodded, leaning against the fridge. You're raising her again, you know. This time right. Cora didn't respond, but that night, when she pulled out her emergency contact form to update the information for her medical file, she didn't hesitate. She wrote in Savannah's full name, neatly, deliberately, then beside the line labeled relationship to patient, she paused, and wrote, trusted kin. The next morning, they went to the farmer's market together. It was a small one, just a few tents under canvas, the kind of place with too many zucchini samples, and exactly one reliable pickle vendor. Cora handed Savannah a list. Divide it by price per ounce, she said. You'll know which vendor is worth returning to next week. Savannah squinted at the handwritten list. You're really not gonna let me coast, are you? Nope. They walked home with canvas bags full of produce and dusty heels. When they got back, Cora placed a sticky note on the fridge. 3 chores, 1 deadline. At 4 p.m., Savannah emerged from her room, hands still damp from washing dishes. I finished early, she said. Want to go for a walk? Instead, Cora handed her a volunteer flyer. Better. Let's go do something useful. The flyer was for the Tempe Public Library's Community Support Desk, an initiative Cora had quietly funded but never talked about. Twice a week, they helped seniors navigate basic tech. Print forms, file rebates, scan old letters. Savannah read the flyer twice, then smiled. Okay. By 6 p.m., they were sorting donated books into labeled bins. Savannah helped an elderly woman reset her email password. Cora showed another how to scan a family photo to PDF, and for the first time in weeks, Cora's breath felt even. Not triumphant, not spiteful. Just even. As they left the library, the sun dipped low over the red-tiled roofs of the neighborhood, casting long lavender shadows across the sidewalk. Savannah slipped her phone back into her pocket and looked up. Grandma? Yes? I like the rules here. Cora didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Then follow them. It started with the subject line. I just need to say this, Mom. Cora was sitting at her patio table, pruning a set of succulents that had gone leggy in the early summer heat. The morning air still held a sliver of coolness, enough to make the breeze feel earned. Her gloves were flecked with soil when she picked up the tablet, wiped the corner with a damp cloth, and opened the email. It was long, too long. Paragraphs stacked like gilt bricks, soft words padded around sharp barbs. Maya, I know things got messy, but you never said no. You've always helped before, and it felt normal to assume you'd still want to be involved. We didn't mean to leave you out. It just kind of happened fast. I wish you'd given us a chance to explain before escalating things. Ethan is stressed. I'm exhausted. Savannah's confused. I still believe we can fix this, but only if you stop treating us like enemies. Cora scrolled slowly, eyes unmoved. Not a single line read I'm sorry. Just 100 ways to reframe betrayal as confusion. Just as she was closing the window, another notification slid in. From Ethan Maddox's subject. Families don't do this to each other. She opened it only because she knew she'd print it later. I can't believe it's come to this. You've completely destroyed what little trust we had left. You're letting outsiders get in your head. Family used to mean something to you. I hope you realize that when Savannah turns on you too, we'll be the only ones who stuck around. This doesn't end well for anyone. Cora stared at the screen for 5 full seconds. Then, without ceremony, she tapped delete. Then again, trash empty. Inbox cleared. From the hallway, Savannah appeared holding 2 mugs of peppermint tea. I saw who it was, she said quietly. You okay? I am. Savannah hesitated, then offered. I can block them from my phone. I was holding out in case they ever, I don't know. Woke up, but now it just feels like they're trying to use me to reach. Cora looked up at her. Only block them if it helps you, she said. Not for me. Savannah nodded once, then opened her messages. Tap, tap, silence. They're gone, she said. Later that evening, Joe arrived holding a bottle of red wine and a pair of stemless glasses, already chilled. No gossip, she declared. No screenshots, no fallout talk. Just quiet. Cora uncorked the bottle and poured. They sat on the back porch, the sky cooling into violet, the scent of citrus peel and desert sage drifting through the yard like memory that no longer stung. To what are we drinking? Cora asked. Jo raised her glass. To peace that doesn't need approval. They clinked, then sipped. Before sunset, Cora wandered to the front yard with a shovel in hand. She had already picked out the spot, a bare patch near the walkway where nothing had taken root since her husband's passing. Savannah joined her without being asked, kneeling with gloved hands and a small spade. They planted together, a young cactus, thick-spined and stubborn, the kind that didn't flower, but didn't falter either. A survivor, not pretty, but permanent. What kind is it? Savannah asked, brushing dust from the base. Argentine toothpick, Cora replied. Slow grower, but it lives through anything. She patted the earth down firmly, then stood. Behind them, the porch light flickered on. Automatic, reliable. Just then, Savannah's phone buzzed. She checked the screen, frowned, then held it up to Cora. Someone just tagged me in a post. It's Dad. Cora didn't take the phone. She simply said, let them write whatever they want. Then, with quiet finality, we're writing what lasts. Cora sat in Luis Tapia's glass-walled office, her back straight, reading glasses perched low as she reviewed the final draft of her estate documents. Outside, the Arizona heat shimmered off the parking lot like a dare. Inside, it was air-conditioned silence, punctuated only by the slow rhythmic tap of her pen against a folder labeled Legacy in embossed serif. Luis leaned forward, hands folded. Once you sign, these changes are final. I know, she said. Her voice didn't tremble. That's the point. Page by page, she initialed the margins, signed the signature lines, dated the declarations. When she reached the designation of heir and executor, she paused, only to reread it once more. Savannah Elise Maddox, sole beneficiary, medical power of attorney, estate executor, first contact. All matters. Luis watched her. You're certain they wrote their own obituaries the day they decided access meant ownership? Cora replied. I'm just correcting the headline. He nodded, then passed her the next form. The no contact clause. Filing this means your legal team will handle any future communication. Voicemail, text, even delivery attempts. It creates a firewall. She signed it without blinking. They wanted distance, she said. Now they can have it. In writing, by that afternoon, the changes had been notarized and filed. The last document was sealed in a courier envelope and marked private legal correspondence, ready to be delivered, should Maya or Ethan ever try to file a claim. Cora didn't tell Savannah what she'd done yet. Instead, she came home, changed into her gardening shoes, and joined Jo in the backyard, where a new trellis was being staked into the soil. Jo held the mallet. So? Jo asked. Cora handed her the now empty envelope, folded neatly in half. They wrote me off years ago. I just finished the chapter. Jo smirked. So you edited the ending? No, Cora said, dusting her hands. I rewrote the dedication. They worked side by side until the lattice stood firm. In the corner, Savannah was stringing twine around newly sprouting peas, methodical in her task. The phone rang just before sunset. Cora recognized the number, didn't answer. She let it go to voicemail. An alert flashed on the screen. New voicemail, Maya Maddox, 058. Cora tapped play without ceremony. The speaker crackled, then Maya's voice spilled through. Breathless, bitter. You'll regret this. You're erasing your own daughter. I hope Savannah is everything you think she is, because you just lost your real family. I don't know who you think you're protecting, but someday you'll realize how cruel this was. You'll be alone. And when that day comes, don't call me. Cora hit save, then forward. Sent it to a secure archive folder titled Disinheritance Proof. She turned to Savannah, who was now rinsing dirt from her hands at the patio sink. Can you take a walk with me? Cora asked. Sure, Savannah said, drying her fingers on a towel. What's up? They walked down the sidewalk slowly, the sky above them melting into shades of dusty coral and cobalt blue. Cora waited until they reached the corner. Just far enough from the house, just close enough to still feel rooted. I made it official, she said. All of it. You're my only legal next of kin now. If anything happens to me, you're the one in charge of the house, of the accounts, of me. Savannah stopped walking. You really trust me with that? Cora looked at her for a long time. You didn't earn that trust with perfection, she said. You earned it by choosing truth over comfort. That's more than your mother ever did. Savannah swallowed hard. I won't let you down. I know, Cora said simply. They turned around, heading back toward the porch light now blinking on. As they walked, a breeze picked up, cooler than expected for July. I was thinking we could start scanning the old photos, Savannah said. Make a digital family tree or something. Not a tree, Cora replied, softly. Too many cut branches. Savannah smiled. Then what? Cora's eyes twinkled faintly in the twilight. A garden, she said. One that only grows what we plant. And as they stepped back onto the porch, Savannah's phone buzzed again, this time with a message, not from Maya or Ethan, but from a cousin they hadn't heard from in months. Hey, I saw the post. You okay? Need anything? Savannah turned the screen toward Cora. Cora read it, then said, let's answer. But not tonight. And the porch light glowed above them, unbothered, constant, whole. The dining room smelled like brown butter and cinnamon. Not the kind pumped through store vents or scented candles, but the real kind, warm, slow, and earned. Cora stood at the head of her table, smoothing the creases from a tablecloth she hadn't used in years. The stitching on the corners had come loose, but she let it be. There was honesty in wear. Joe arrived first, naturally arms full of Tupperware and opinions. I brought the good potatoes, she said, setting them down. And if Luis shows up with store-bought dessert again, I'm shoving it under the porch. I made pie, Cora said, dryly. You're a saint. Savannah floated between the kitchen and living room, setting out mismatched plates and folded napkins, humming something low and unrecognizable. Her hair was pinned up, tendrils escaping in every direction, and there was flour on her cheek. Cora didn't mention it. By 6:30, the others had arrived. Luis, wearing a linen shirt that tried too hard. 2 women from the library, Eleanor and Darlene, who brought lemon bars and a bouquet of sunflowers. The room filled not with noise exactly, but presence. No tension, no eggshells, just people who stayed because they chose to. Dinner was roast chicken, buttery rolls, and salad from the backyard garden. No one checked their phones. No one asked about Ethan or Maya. The past, for once, wasn't the uninvited guest. Halfway through dessert, Jo raised her glass of sparkling water and tapped it with a fork. A toast, she said, to selective memory and deliberate boundaries. May we all forget what doesn't deserve space, and remember what's worth rebuilding. They clinked glasses, ceramic mugs, mismatched stemware, a chipped tumbler from the dishwasher. Nothing uniform, everything right. Cora leaned back in her chair, fork idle on the plate, gaze slipping toward the window. Outside, the horizon burned clean with twilight. No storm rolling in, no shadows clawing at the edge, just open space. I haven't done this in years, she said softly. Been too busy holding everyone else's mess together, Jo replied, sipping her drink. No more of that, Cora said. Savannah reached beneath her chair and pulled out a wrapped package, modestly sized, tied with garden twine. She slid it across the table. For you, she said. Took me a while. Cora opened it slowly. Inside was a hand-bound scrapbook. The pages weren't just photos. They were artifacts, library flyers, grocery lists, little doodles Savannah had left on Cora's desk. A timeline of subtle gratitude. On the first page, written in careful ink. Everything they missed, I noticed. Cora blinked. Once, twice, then closed the cover gently. I don't need anything else tonight, she said. This was enough. Later, when the dishes were stacked, and the guests had gone, and the porch light clicked on with its quiet, mechanical loyalty, Cora stepped outside. The chairs were still warm. The air soft. She sat beside Savannah, who handed her a blanket. Want to stay out here a while? Savannah asked. Cora nodded, then glanced at the horizon. Feels different, she said. Not like I'm waiting for something, just being. They sat in silence for several minutes, the sky darkening without urgency. Then Savannah reached over and took her hand. You finally got to be the one who left, she said. Cora didn't answer, but she squeezed her hand back. Not to agree, to confirm. The envelope arrived on a Thursday. No fanfare, no dramatic courier. Just regular mail wedged between a flyer for gutter cleaning and a grocery circular. Cora recognized the return address before she even slid it open. Maricopa County Restitution Disbursement Fund. Inside, a single check, stamped, endorsed, and clean. $14,927.38, memo line. Recovered funds. E. Maddox fiduciary misuse case. She stood in the kitchen for a full minute, thumb resting on the edge of the slip. It didn't feel like justice. Not exactly. It felt like something simpler, math correcting itself. Joe walked in mid-thought, balancing 2 bags of groceries and humming off-key. Anything good in the mail? Cora held up the check. Joe arched an eyebrow. Well, look who's finally paying rent on their betrayal. Cora didn't laugh. She walked to the desk, flipped open her ledger, and made 2 entries. Deposit, $14,927.38. Underneath, 2 withdrawals, planned but not yet written, $7,463.69. Donation, Free Wings Senior Women's Travel Initiative, $7,463.69. Savannah Housing, First Last Security. The next morning, she delivered the first check in person, enclosed in a plain envelope, slipped across the desk of a woman named Meredith, who wore horn-rimmed glasses and teared up quietly when she saw the amount. We'll be able to sponsor 6 more this year, Meredith whispered. Solo travelers, women who've never left Arizona. Cora nodded. Give them somewhere else to stand. That afternoon, she met Savannah outside a campus rental office. The sun was brutal, bouncing off the concrete like it wanted to start fights. Cora handed her a folder, lease copy, payment receipt, digital access codes. It's your space now, she said. Safe. Yours. No strings. Savannah blinked. Is this from? From Ethan's mess, Cora said. I just cleaned it into something useful. They hugged once, short but certain. Back home, Cora returned to her sunroom. The cactus they'd planted weeks earlier had thickened at the base. Still no blooms. Still alive. Her phone lit up, screen flashing with a familiar name. Maya. Again. Cora stared at it until the ring faded into nothing. No voicemail left. No second attempt. Joe, from the porch, watched her through the screen door. You good? She asked. Voice low. I am now, Cora replied, setting the phone face down. They're done spending me. Joe lifted her iced coffee in quiet salute. Later that evening, Cora sat alone on the back steps, the yard humming with crickets and the smell of cooling earth. She thought about everything, about Maya's first check request that had seemed so small, about Ethan's smirk when he dismissed her concern over a card charge, about the dozen ways they'd turned love into ledger entry. She thought about the beach trip they hadn't invited her to. And then she smiled, an honest, slow curve of the mouth. They booked a trip without me, she whispered into the dark. I canceled their access to every destination I paid for. The breeze shifted. Cooler now. Whole.